Good morning, everyone. I'm Silke Schmickel. I'm a curator at the National Gallery Singapore, and I'm delighted to have Fernanda Valadez, the filmmaker of Identifying Features, with me, and also Astrid, the producer and co-writer of this wonderful film. The film premieres in Southeast Asia at the Singapore International Film Festival, which is really a wonderful opportunity for our local audiences to see this amazing film made in Mexico. And we will take the next 15 minutes to just speak about the film and get some insights from Astrid and Fernanda. So welcome again, and let me maybe just start with a very simple question. How did you get the idea to make this film? It feels incredibly personal, so I'm curious to hear, what was the inspiration behind the making of the work?
That's curious because we were talking about that just a couple of days ago, because we began so many years ago that we didn't quite remember what exactly was what it was. I mean, of course, we remember that there was a surge of violence in Mexico, and we both were shocked and with an urgency to talk about this and to question what was happening. But actually, it was Astrid that found a note in a blog that was called Blog del Narco, the blog of the cartels, where a lot of information were circling and just being shared. We later found that they were being shared actually by the cartels themselves. But at that point, it was like a point of communication where we found out about things that were in the media, in the regular media. So perhaps you want to talk about that now.
Yeah, and it was like an eerie account of a survivor from a boss, just like this story. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like this. It wasn't, but I think that was the seed that ignited the idea of telling a story of one of those people inside that boss and how they experienced those acts of violence, because it was a very terrible account of what happened there. So I think that we were discussing that and we came to the resolution that perhaps that's how the story started from the very, very beginning. Mm-hmm. And well, but after that, Fernanda, of course, wrote a short film that was based in the same story. So it's a very, very long journey from that idea to the feature film.
Yeah, I mean, I can feel it's very nuanced, and I immediately felt that a lot of research, went into the development of the story and also the different characters. And maybe just to stay with this early moment for a little while, did you also encounter actually some people who had such a direct experience themselves? Or was it more through the reading on the blogs or the news, that you started imagining the plot?
It was mostly documentary research. And at a certain point, I contacted an organization, a human rights organization that helps the families of the missing people with the intention of making interviews, but I thought it twice and I decided not to contact them directly because I was really worried that they would feel used, because in the end, this is a fiction. So I took a step back and went back to documentary research alongside Astrid, but we were able to read and to find footage made by incredible journalists that were direct research of the survivors and the families. And that was the way that we researched for this film.
Mm-hmm. And now I'm also curious to hear a bit more about the choice of the actors, which were all incredibly, real. And I mean, they felt almost like in a documentary film, so their acting was just extremely, moving and realist. So how did you select them, and, how have you worked with them throughout the film?
The two main actors, the actress that plays the mother, she's Mercedes Hernandez, and she's a very experienced actress, both in theater and film in Mexico. And the young man that plays Miguel, the young man deported from the US. He's also quite an experienced actor, but he's very remarkable because Spanish is his second language. His first language is the language that's spoken on the film, Zapoteco. The rest of the cast are non-professional actors and some local actors from the place where we shot and where I was born. And I think we made an effort to make them to coexist, the professional actors and the young people and the rest of the cast that were really inhabitants of the place where we shot.
Yeah, I think that really worked, you know, because it felt so, I mean, nothing felt staged. And so I guess that the choice of having, you know, local people mixed with the professional actors was very convincing. And so I'm also curious about your relationship with this place itself, you know, because the landscape obviously plays a very important role in this film. You know, it forms a sort of psychological backdrop, you know, the tension, but also the beauty. You know, this kind of dual relationship is something that I found really stunning, especially also in your widescreen format. You know, I mean, the landscape is really a prominent character by itself. So are you familiar with this place, or is it a place that you discovered when shooting? And yeah, maybe tell us just a bit more about the setting, you know.
Well, I do know the place, and Astrid will tell you a little bit more about that production-wise. But we really shot in a small area of places that I know, and some others I got to know on the way. But most of them are in a rural community in nearby the city where I was born. So we were able to privilege time and trying to make the landscape an expression of the emotions and the inner landscapes of the characters. But the decision of not really traveling, a real traveling with the company that shot the film, but to remain in a small area,
it was due to the very small budget that we had. So we decided to stick with the same area, but basically wait for the seasons to change. So it seems like this character is making like a journey to the border, but in fact it's in the very same space, and we're just changing seasons, so the landscape looks different. The only scenes that we shot in the border were those of Miguel coming back from the US to Mexico. And that was very hard to do for us because we were a very small crew and we didn't have enough budget. But anyway, we chose to do it that way, and we felt like it was a great experience for the whole crew.
No, it totally works. And I mean, I couldn't tell. I really imagined you know, traveling very far. And yeah, I mean, I thought the details of observation, you know, of nature as well. You know, sometimes just the raindrops on a grass, or like the changing moods indeed, you know, of the sunrise, the sunset. I mean, it was really a very strong element of the film, which for me at least added a lot of tension. You know, there were moments I could hardly stay, you know, with the screen because I got very emotional, I guess, through these images as well. And so another point that I found very interesting, and we could maybe discuss a little, is, you know, throughout the film, there's really this proximity between evil and kindness, you know, as Magdalena goes on this journey, you know, she meets also a lot of strangers who help her, who give her hints, you know, who allow her to conduct this research of her son. And at the same time, of course, nobody can be trusted because evil seems to be all around. So this, I think, was a very strong element, you know, of the narration, and also to just think about this dual system that coexists and how this can be translated into a film. So was this something that was a guiding sort of principle, or how do you feel about this duality yourself?
Well, perhaps that was something that Fernanda and I discussed a lot, because Fernanda was really drawn into the dark side of the story. And at some point when we finished the short film, we discussed that it was very important that if we wanted to go and start writing a feature out of that short film, like the landscape of the story should like broaden, and that for us it was very important to show that, just what you said, that in this time of darkness, so terrible darkness here in Mexico, there's a lot of people trying to overcome it, and even though they cannot change it completely, they make a difference in the journey of the parents that are looking for their missing ones. So that was something that we really wanted to tell in this film
to portray
too.
And I think in Mexico we have this duality, and we are all that also, this tension between, we're capable of doing terrible acts, but at the same time in Mexico there's a net of solidarity that I think it's what keeps this really contradictory country together. It prevents us to fall apart, I think.
Yeah. I also, you know, I liked also this moment where the evil is really represented as the devil, you know, then it's sort of the far end of how evil it can get. And on the other hand, the relationships are so warm, you know, when also Magdalena starts, you know, kind of adopting Miguel as her new son, or, you know, like these possibilities of recreating something new, even in the most disastrous situation. I think was incredible in the film, how you really articulated, you know, this whole spectrum of how the same people can also evolve on different sides. Yeah, I wanted also maybe to ask a little bit about the ending of the film, you know, what were the options there? You know, were you hoping to resolve the situation, or because the ending is not necessarily a happy ending, you know? So how did you decide on this choice of how the film ends?
I think that was one of the earliest intuitions that we had, and it has to do with what we both believe about the tragedy and the humanitarian crisis that Mexico is experiencing, and what we are as citizens of this country, that we are at the same time victims of a whirlwind of violence, and in this whirlwind a lot of people are compelled and pushed to become perpetrators. And in the case of one of these characters, pulled in, or it's a victim of enforced recruitment. And we felt like, because of the injustice and the poverty, we had to tell a story about this very porous and thin line between victims and perpetrators. So we from the very early drafts, that we had to tell the story about this mother looking for a son that is at the time a victim and a perpetrator. And so that's how we began writing, I think.
Well, I think that's something that we thought about, because there are so many cases in Mexico of people that disappear with their phones, and they can track the pin, but they don't do it because they don't want to do it. And it's so sad that that's also one of those things that in Mexico we are like it's very hurtful, because we have the technology, but we don't have a state that really secures the you know the well-being of the citizens, especially in that kind of citizens, like the people that fall out of the margins of society, and it's really, really sad. In fact, I'm thinking as you were talking about, for instance, the Ayotzinapa,
Yes.
the case of the students that were all disappeared, and they had many cell phones. Those were 43 young people with cell phones, and they couldn't find them. And it's so sad. That's how, when you are in the middle class here in Mexico, as we are, we kind of think they don't want to find them at the end, because if they would want it, they would just do it. Exactly.
And what we often discuss in Mexico is that the cartels are so powerful that they are not just criminal organizations. They are kind of, like Astrid was saying, parallel states, and they are competing with the Mexican state in terms of power and force. And so it's complicated, and I think we don't really have answers for that, but just this estrangement and this anger towards the situation, and just questions, I believe.
Yeah, I also found, often we are so focused on the border where a lot of, terrifying events happen, but the fact that the boys already disappear before even reaching the border, like having these zones, that are even, so that something can happen before you even get to this point where you're crossing a country. Or I found also was a very interesting element, how it also changed, my perception a little bit, because we would expect that something happens while he's trying to cross the border, but no, actually there is this cartel active, to catch these people already before. So maybe we have not much time left, but shall we talk a little bit about the distribution of the film? I think it has been shown in quite a few festivals, so maybe you would like to speak a little bit about your experience traveling with the film, or at least accompanying online if possible.
Well, that during this year, I think we have been very fortunate that because of the state of the technology, the film can travel almost like by itself, even though we cannot go physically with it. And I think sometimes it has opened doors for the future, even that some festivals have opened digital tickets or theaters for people to watch the films. And I think that's quite interesting and great, because otherwise in this situation our films would be paralyzed. So that's something that we're very happy about. And
we have had many reactions from many different places, and it's been really interesting. And you can get a sense that we have a lot of connection between us, because we're humans, but at the same time we have the very different perspectives. And you just see how different, from different areas, the people react differently. And it's been great. In terms of distribution, we're really lucky, and it's been, even though with the situation we have distribution from many places in the world.
yes.
And right now it's in theaters in Spain. It's going to be in 2021 in the US, also in Mexico, and it's also in Japan. So it's just like completely so strange for us, and it's been great for the film and for our souls also.
Quite unexpected, really.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's really well deserved. It's a wonderful film, and I think it's really special, to see also a Mexican film here in Singapore. So I'm sure that our audiences were amazed, to see it on the big screen at least 2 times, and hopefully also to watch our interview today, to get to meet you at least online. Okay, so I think our time is up, but I was really pleased to meet you, and thank you very much for sharing these insights of the making of the film. And yeah, congratulations again, and all the best for yourself and also the future of the work.
No, thank you. We're really happy that you have screened the film. Really, really happy.
Wonderful. Okay, take care, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Bye. Nice to meet you too. Bye.